So there's lots of things at the Ministry of Education, like from my external view, you see that they're trying to do a lot of things, right? They're trying to teach critical thinking. They're trying to teach computational thinking. These, what do they call them? 21st century competencies. That's a clear sort of place where there is efforts to do stuff like that. I think, I mean, just very frankly, whenever you have a system where almost all of your ability to do the things that you want ends up being pegged to something which is easily quantifiable, like a test score, that washes away all the other stuff, right? So one thing that we should probably do, although I can't see how it's possible given the infrastructure we've already built up, is we maybe need to create ways for people to do highly desirable things like getting into a top university in Singapore without focusing so much on the test score that you have. So some ways to do it that may not actually work here, but just ideas are have a pot, like a small population of people who could get in, not randomly, but just based on things that are not test scores, explicitly not test scores, right? I think we can maybe start to think more creatively about ways of encouraging people to think about demonstrating ways of being successful that aren't about conventional ideas of easily legible performance. Now, another thing that maybe we could do that is a bit more out there is to think about what we can do inside the pedagogical framework that we have to introduce people to uncomfortable ideas more. Because I don't think that's not an explicit objective of our education system, right? So I went all the way through to the end of JC in Singapore. And the way we frame learning for the most part, or at least it was true when I was going through these, was there are correct answers, right? The correct answers are in a framework that you get tested on. The arbiters of correctness are teachers. And the only reason why I didn't fully believe that along the way was I had amazing teachers, like all the way through from primary school. I can identify specific teachers along the way who all said, this is not the right way to think about it, right? So in reality, there are some facts, but interpretations of facts, interpretations of what things you value, there's diversity of those things. That means that correct answers can only generally be about facts. They can't really be about interpretations. Interpretations have to be argued into existence. You have to be able to justify those things. I think that if we had an education system that was better at teaching people to do that kind of uncomfortable consideration of whether or not you believe something, why do you believe something? You know, in philosophy, you would call this like epistemic reasoning. That would be a good thing for us to do. We should never call it epistemic reasoning or epistemology in schools because that will turn people off, but we should be teaching them to say, okay, if we say this thing, for example, we provide an interpretation of why Singapore became independent in 1965. Do you believe it? Where is the data coming from? Do you believe this data? Is there missing data that would give us a different interpretation of it? That's just for history. You can do this for almost every subject. And if we taught that instead of teaching people to remember facts and then regurgitate them in exams, which I know they're not trying to do, but that's just how it works. But if we explicitly say, okay, let's not do this, let's do it this other way instead, maybe we'd get a little bit further. I think also to the point of sort of progressive overload, having other ways for people to be exposed to uncomfortable things is probably a good thing. How that looks for different age groups will look very different, right? So for adults, like, you know, people of your age or my age who are, you know, well-versed in living in the world, exposure to uncertainty can be something that you do as a game. Like, you know, there's that thing up there which we can talk about if you want, but we often need prompts to force us to do something that is uncomfortable, but also designed to expose us to new ideas, new ways of thinking. And maybe we need to think about what those look like for younger children as well. That's something which I've been thinking about a little bit. I don't have answers yet, but it seems like an important thing to try and do for sure.